Hey, this is Jamey with Stonemeyer Games, and today I'm going to talk about my favorite mechanism in the Grand Sumo tournament that happens every other month in Japan. This is sumo wrestling, the sport, not a tabletop game. And a friend of mine kind of got me into it recently. I actually did study abroad in Japan. I attended a sumo tournament when I was there, just one day of it, but I didn't really know what was happening until recently when this friend who is really into the sumo tournaments described to me how it all works. And it's really, really interesting. And so I'll try to describe how the tournament structure works. Basically, just to give some context, if you think about like a March Madness style tournament in college basketball in the U.S., typically the top ranked teams are decided by some group, some body of people who select what rankings different teams are. They play early in the tournament. They play the weakest teams. And so sometimes there are upsets, and that can be exciting to watch these upsets happen when you have a 16th ranked team playing a 1 ranked team. But typically, the number 1 team wins against the 16th ranked team. In the sumo tournament, the Grand Sumo tournament in Japan, it works a little bit differently. Basically, the sumo wrestlers are divided into tiers based on an ongoing basis. So at any given time, you are in a specific tier, and some of the tiers have rankings within those tiers. There's the Yokozuna class, the top. Then there's, I believe, Ozeki, and then Sekiwake, I believe. And then it goes down from there. I think there are 1 or 2 other tiers below that. And so the sumo wrestlers go into the tournament within one of these tiers. And throughout much of the tournament, which is a 15-day tournament where they fight one bout a day, every day for 15 days, unless they decide to sit out a bout, which they can do, but it's considered a loss. Early on in the tournament, you are playing against or competing against sumo wrestlers within your same tier, typically, or as close as possible as the matchups can go. So, like when we started watching the day 1 of this recent tournament, on the screen they show you your record from the previous tournament. And so we were seeing sumo wrestlers that had done really well in the previous tournament going against wrestlers that had done very poorly in the previous tournament. But because they're in the same category, the same tier, the same class, they are fighting each other early on in the tournament. And so that also means that at the end of every day in the tournament, or as each day of the tournament progresses, it kind of builds up to the top-ranked sumo wrestlers, the ones that are in those upper tiers. Because early on, you have the lower-ranked guys going against one another, and then as each day progresses, you get higher and higher-ranked wrestlers competing against one another, which is really interesting. It means that you are getting fairly even matchups early on in the tournament. And then, and throughout each day, not only early on in the tournament, but also throughout each day as you're watching. So each day has this buildup of excitement. So I think that's really cool. I love that effect. But also it means that later on in the tournament, you have wrestlers that are not in the same class going against one another. Because as the tournament progresses, your record in the tournament matters more and more in the current tournament. So I am up to day 14 in the current tournament. I'm watching 30-minute recaps. I'll post a link below so you can watch it. This is the September tournament. This video will go live as we get pretty close to the November tournament. As the tournament progresses, you have these sumo wrestlers that have great records in the current tournament, going against guys that have obtained much higher tiers. And so in day 14, day 15, and even days like 10 through 15, you have these really low-ranked guys that have just done really well in this current tournament, going against really much better wrestlers and much higher-ranked wrestlers who maybe have performed well in the tournament, or maybe they haven't. And that's really interesting because you have this huge element of an underdog, someone who has overachieved in the current tournament and is doing really well and might eventually move up to these higher tiers, but you don't know. And they're going against these really, really good, experienced, top-ranked wrestlers. So I love how this works on a day-to-day basis throughout the tournament, and early on in the tournament and late in the tournament. It works on all levels in ways that I didn't really expect going into it, because I thought, okay, why not just like match up, on any given day, the wrestler with the best rank against the worst rank, or the 2 guys with the best ranks. We've seen that tournament structure in like Magic tournaments. If you go to a Magic tournament, typically you play against someone who also has not lost. But this is just a really interesting format that you're divided into these tiers, and you play against your own tier early on, and then as you move up in the tournament, as your record gets better and better, or worse and worse, you play against or compete against better wrestlers. And also, your record matters your record in the tournament matters for how you will move into those upper tiers later on. So one of the magic numbers, because you're playing 15, competing in 15 matches, the magic number is 8. You're trying to get 8 wins so that you have a winning record. 8 losses might risk you moving down a tier even. But those 8 wins, and if you get a bunch of wins in one tournament, you have a greater chance of moving up in the next tournament. Anyway, just a really cool format. I'd highly recommend watching it on the link that I include below. It's kind of a 30-minute summary every day, and it doesn't completely explain how this tier system works. I haven't even done the best job of doing it. There might be other videos out there that do a great job of explaining it. But it's a really, really interesting tournament format that I've really enjoyed watching. I'd highly recommend checking it out, and I'd love to hear your thoughts about how this might apply to tabletop games, which is the typical space that I'm in terms of games that involve tournaments and how you match up different competitors throughout the tournament. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks.